Okay, so we've got our tracing. The next thing we need to do is we need to cut out our felt. So normally we'd tack on a design, but if we're actually applying felt onto the surface of the material, we don't need to do as much tacking. So I'm just going to trim out this area with my scissors first, and then from that I can then cut out the felt. So I'm just using an ordinary pair of paper scissors because I don't want to damage my actual embroidery scissors. So I'm just going to come around the head like this and just go all the way around our design, chop it out, make sure you're right into the areas that you're doing. Okay, so we're going around here like that. I'm getting a little swoosh just up here. And if you've not quite gone along a line with your pen, then you can just correct it anyway when you're doing the cutting out here. So I've just got that last little bit to do. It's quite easy to get nice curves as well with your pair of scissors when you're doing the cutting out. It just forms nicer lines. Okay, so there's our little cutout ghost. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to cut that ghost out of our felt. So we're just going to take the felt and we're going to cut it out. I'm going to actually get my better scissors for this, and I'm just going to cut out a little square here. You'll have a piece about 3 inches, so you probably won't need to just trim that. Okay, so that's our design there. So let's just move him up. So it'd be easier to start on your line just there. Okay, so we're just going to cut around our shape, and then we'll have a nice piece of felt that we can stitch down. Okay, let's get rid of that piece there. Just make sure that you're holding it in place, because what you don't want is for it to move all about. Okay, you can just trim along there and ignore that little area, and then you can come back and do those areas afterwards. Sometimes that's much easier. So I'm going to go in here like this with that, just snip that out, and then I'm going to come in like that and like that. Okay, so there's our little piece of felt there. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to just trim in about 1 millimetre from the edge, because that's also going to be exactly the same size as our leather, and our leather won't quite form over the shape if the felt is exactly the same size. So I'm going to trim that down there, and I'm going to trim it down just here like that, and I'm going to make sure that this little area here is that little bit wider. Okay, and then just trim that little bit off at the bottom just there, and make sure that this is trimmed in a little bit here as well, and then this bit here also. Okay, so got to get rid of all those little fibres of felt, but there's our little ghost shape. Okay, so we'll be applying that onto our fabric next. Okay, so I've just got my frame all set up here. Got my little template, and we've got our piece of felt which you can hardly see against there. But we're using black because we will have black spaces for the eyes, so we do want to see that black felt underneath. I would tend to use charcoal for this, but it won't be visible. I'd use a translucent charcoal colour, just so it's not visible against the black. However, so that you can see my stitching, I'm going to use the white translucent thread instead. So you're literally just coming up on the outside of the felt and going down into the felt like that. Now these are reasonable stitches. You want to make sure that you secure that felt in place, so not tiny stitches like you'll be doing when you go into the leather. We want reasonable stitches going into our felt, okay? And you need to go all the way around all of your design. Not only will the white allow you to see my stitches, but it'll also show you where the shape is when I'm applying it onto the fabric there. So you'll be able to see the actual shape once I've gone around the whole thing. So we're literally just coming up on the very edge of our felt, and we're going into the felt at a slight angle there like that. Okay, so we're coming up and down into our felt. Okay, so this will take a little bit of time, and you've just got to make sure that, you know, it's very well secured down to the fabric. So I'm just going to fast forward through this so that you can see exactly how it's all applied, and then we'll be at the end of our felt application. Okay, so there's our little area there, all stitched down, and as I said, I have used the white translucent thread. I would generally do this in the black because then it wouldn't be at all visible. Not that you're ever going to be able to see it, because obviously it is going to be under something else, but you know, aesthetically I prefer to use a similar colour of what I'm couching down or stitching down as to what I'm actually using. So black with black. Now I did, I don't know whether some of you noticed on the speeded up version, I did have to start a new thread. So if you're starting a new thread, you need to make sure that you do sew off your other thread completely. Okay, so that's our piece of felt just stitched on nicely there, and we'll move on to the next technique,